350 as of 2014, and 1,40,803. Now, this is, just open it up. And I feel if there was a theme, it would be just unleash. I think all we have to do in this country, Nirmala ji, is unleash. Don't you see that?
Right.
Haven't you seen a change in the recent times as well? You know, then there were 5 cities with metro rail. Today we have 24 cities with metro rail. I'm told they're going to go over 50 soon. 70 airports, 140 airports, 200 in the future. So we are headed towards explosive growth. What will we have to change in our government systems to adjust to that change of growth? The question is, the country will go from 3 to 4 to 30 faster than we expect. We'll be more urbanized, I heard today, 50% urbanization. Transport systems will change, aspirations will change. Now my question is, what do you, in your view, in the government systems, the regulations, the systems, and you spoke recently about, you had a great meeting, by the way, recently about amending of the IT Act, which was also one of the promises you had in your budget. And I was so impressed to see you do a follow-up meeting on what you did. Finance ministers often don't do. Ms. Sitharaman, broad question, and every audience member wants to know. We will grow. How will the government have to change vis-a-vis the citizens in terms of systems, regulations, and way of handling things?
I'll say something but which I don't want to get misunderstood, but I will say it and therefore I'll explain it also. The tendency, I suppose it's inherited from the British time and also the 70 years, is to be cautious. The tendency again is also to be careful that you're not letting out too much. Somewhere giving you the feeling that the trust on the citizen is less and the trust on the administration is more. The trust on the citizen is what Prime Minister Modi wants completely shifted in favor of the citizen. And in that, every measure you take is still requiring of more measures to be taken, and we are doing that. But sometimes it does happen that you've gone 2 steps forward, but for some reason you come 1 step backward. In the 10 years, that has been the one thing on which sometimes I think the attitude of the government and the attitude of the voting public and those who don't even vote is that this relationship should be on trust basis. Government should trust its citizens. Prime Minister Modi is fully in favor of that. All of us are making our efforts for it. But I can't say the work is done. It's probably requires a lot more to be done. That when we prepare ourselves for a policy or a policy shifting or a tweaking of some policy, that should be the overriding consideration. It doesn't come first, it comes on asking. So that is the constant change that we'll have to keep working. It's happening more nowadays than before, but it needs to happen every time. That's where the work is.
I can tell you the citizens also trust the government. And for any country to grow in the direction we are taking now, we need continuity. I hope I'm not misunderstood. I'm not making a political comment. But the biggest danger to any country is a big shift. When you're on a path, you need to be on the path, you need to grow on the path. And the worry for a lot of people is the 2 economic perspectives being presented today. One, your perspective, and the other perspective appears too far left, if you can call it that. Though I don't think the people who push it are leftists really. But the fear of continuity, we need continuity. Everywhere I speak to business leaders, Nirmala ji, we need continuity. And I think people do trust the government to provide that continuity, which takes me to my next question. Now I again take you back to the global scenario, and it's ironical and beautiful at the same time that nowadays an interview with the finance minister is 70% on global issues, because that's the way the world is moving. Honorable Finance Minister, recent reports have suggested there is a growing global trend towards de-dollarization. The US dollars in global reserves declined to 54% in Q4 2023. It was 70% in the early 2000s. China has also been actively promoting its currency as a possible alternative to the US dollar in global trade. And I have already told you, Trump is very aggressive on this. He says, you promote that, I'm going to build a huge financial wall in the United States against you. In the light of these developments and the need for de-dollarization, for a balancing factor in the world, how do you view India's role in this shift? Are we actively exploring alternatives? Should we do that? This was also a subject that had been picked up in the recent BRICS meeting, but it was not really followed through. How do you view this trend and potential of de-dollarization, and will it safeguard India's financial interests in a possibly de-dollarized global economy?
I look at this debate of de-dollarization from the point of view of how the global south has to help one another, how emerging economies will have to safeguard their positions in terms of global reserve currencies, and also how developed countries themselves today, either because of recession or because of lack of demand within their societies, are facing a challenge of different order. So when you're talking about the larger de-dollarization debate, I'm looking at India setting a different track with countries which don't have a huge dollar reserve. Yes. For instance, in Africa, quite a few countries, because of our ties with them, diaspora, British rule, yes, we've had this tie with many African countries, particularly the East African. We do have a lot of cooperation with them. We have lines of credit given to them so that they can have their development projects built through the funds which India gives them at concessional rates. We do all this, but there is a point in time in the recent past, we've had many of them unable to pay back even the concessional loan given to them because they don't have dollars to return it. So now, because we can't just leave them there, not because we want our money back, but because the fact that global south has to do the hand-holding for itself. We'll have to help them, they'll have to be with us, and so on. So we have now started doing this exercise of talking to countries which want to have a rupee relationship.
Yes.
So we allow them to use rupees, pay us back in rupees, and also fund them in certain activities. So this rupee with the local currency is a method through which many of the small country relationships that we have continues. Similarly with Russia, it's not for the first time. Earlier there was a rupee-ruble trade, but the terms that time was different, and now what is happening with Russia is very different. It is possible to have some kind of a give and take, trade sense with Russia dealing in rupee and ruble. There are many other countries who are looking at, because of the way in which we've integrated our UPI, if not in every brick, but at least in some elements of the stack, we've had connection with UPI and with many other countries through the UPI. Even there you're able to see that they're willing to integrate with you through their currency or with the rupee. So not just rupee. You find in every region regional arrangements with regional currencies now being worked up so that the regional trade arrangements don't collapse for want of dollars. So to that extent, de-dollarization is inadvertently or not hitting at the dollar, but promoting things happening with non-dollar currencies. So India too has done this with many countries with whom we've had traditional relationship. With Russia, for instance, and so on. So there are countries through which now UPI payments are enabling.
Yes.
Payments through digital mode.
Yes.
Even there, it may not be in dollars. So very many ways in which you can address and answer the question on de-dollarization, but not with a goalpost of, are we dismantling the dollar? Are we putting rupee in that place? No, not that. There are so many things happening.
What you're saying is we are not against anyone, but we are for ourselves, and nobody can question that.
And we can't deny countries their development aspirations just because they don't have dollar reserve.
True.